Well, the third type of rhymes is called the near rhyme. Here, for instance, we have two words, rose and lose. Concentrate on those two words. You're going to find that the word rose includes a vowel sound long O. O, rose. The second word is lose. Lose. Lose is totally different because the vowel sound is oo. Here, it's true that they share the same consonant sound, which is S, but they are different in vowel sound in O and oo. So, the near rhyme is words that share either the same vowel or consonant sound, but not both. And we have come to talk about some types of poetry. We have lyric, which is a short poem, usually written in first-person point of view, and I'm sure you know the meaning of first-person point of view, when the author used pronouns like I, me, and mine, expresses an emotion or an idea or describes a scene. This is a lyric. It doesn't tell a story and are often musical. Many of the poems we read will be lyrics. The haiku, it's clear from the name that it's a Japanese name. It's a Japanese poem as well, written in 3 lines. In 3 lines only. Look at this example. An old silent pond. A frog jumps into the pond. Splash, silence again. Okay, so a Japanese poem written in 3 lines. This is called haiku. Another type of poems called cinquain, a 5-line poem containing 22 syllables. Okay? 5-line poem containing 22 syllables. Shakespearean sonnet, it's a 14-line poem with a specific rhyme scheme. The poem is written in 3 quatrains and ends with a couplet. The rhyme scheme of Shakespearean sonnet is usually A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G, and you know now the meaning of rhyme scheme and what I mean by this important term. Narrative poems. We have narrative poems. Narrative poems is a poem that tells a story. Generally, it's longer than the lyric style of poetry. The poet needs to establish characters, and since we have characters, there should be a plot. And you know the meaning of plot. Plot is the series of events in a story. So, since there's a series of series of events or actions in the story, it's a narrative poem. You know the plot starts with exposition of the story, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and finally the resolution. Here are some examples of narrative poems. Okay. We have a concrete poem, a poem that takes the shape of the subject the author is describing or talking about. In concrete poems, the words are arranged to create a picture that relates to the content of the poem. Let's say that the author is describing a penguin, for instance. He's gonna draw the words to take the shape of a penguin. And this is important. If he's talking about stars, for instance, or describing a star, so his words will be shaped like a star. So that's why it's called a concrete poem. Let's move on and talk about some important poetic devices which usually authors use. Like hyperbole. Hyperbole is very important in poetry and in stories. Hyperbole is exaggeration in everything, exaggeration in expressions. Instead of saying he's very tall, which is very ordinary, this is a normal language, you can say he is as tall as a tree if you want to say that he is very tall. Instead of saying he's very tall, you can change it into this element using hyperbole. I mean, he is as tall as a tree. Or, okay, if you want to describe someone who is eating so much, instead of saying he's eating so much, you can say that she eats more than an elephant, for instance. Okay, here you mean that she eats a lot. Lie to tease is also used by authors and playwrights in drama, in poetry, in short stories, in novels, etc. It is the understatement, basically the opposite of hyperbole. Often it is ironic. When you say, for instance, I'm not unhappy, you mean I'm happy. He is not a bad friend. You mean he is a good friend. This is called lie to tease. Idioms. The idiom is an expression where the literal meaning of the word is not the meaning of the expression. It means something other than what is actually said. When you say, for instance, it's raining cats and dogs, you don't mean literally that it's raining cats and dogs, of course. It will never rain cats and dogs. But it's raining heavily. It's raining heavily. Another important idiom here, he kicked the bucket. You don't mean exactly that somebody kicked the bucket. But here, when you use this expression or this idiom, you mean that he died. Another element called allusion. Allusion comes from the verb allude, which means to refer to. An allusion is a reference to a person, place, or a famous thing. When you say, for instance, you are not in Hawaii, you mean that he is somewhere else, and he is not in Hawaii to act so and so. When you describe somebody or someone, okay, that she looks like the Mona Lisa, this means that she is maybe very beautiful, maybe she is very traditional, maybe she has a very lovely eyes, etc. So it depends. But this is called allusion. Allusion is a reference to a person, place, or a famous thing. In this worksheet, my dear students are supposed to know and to write on the lines the type of figurative language used in each line of poetry. And when we say figurative language here, we mean that students should write whether this is a simile, this is a metaphor, this is personification, this is symbolism, or this is maybe, let's say, allusion, etc. Use the hyperbole in the second question. Use the hyperbole figure of speech to change the following sentences from literally to literary. The sentences that we have here, those sentences are called literally words. We have to be like skillful people, who can change them into literary sentences. He is so fat, man. You have to think of it and tell me later what it could be. She is so fast. Instead of saying she is so fast, you can say she is as like as blah blah blah. She is, or here, he is so fat, man. You can say another thing, but you keep the same meaning. Okay, this worksheet is trying to summarize some of the basic points that we talked about today, and I hope soon that we will keep in touch through videos, through any means, but the most important thing is that we keep in touch in order to keep our learning process in a very good way. Thank you very much, and I hope you benefited from this summary for the past 2 weeks.